Ooh, she's cold. Real cold. Shit, 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 shit. Too cold, too cold, too cold. All right, so here I am with my MiniChill 09. I ordered this from Brewtools. I'm going to use this to chill my Brewtools F150 here. Well, you can't really see it, it's up there. Trust me, it's there. It's not, I didn't cut off the top of it. And really the point is so I can cold crash and use this as a bright tank when needed and carbonate, and also keep fermentation temperatures under control if they get too hot. So I'm opting for the setup here, and so you know some of these things are optional, so you can get away without having them. For example, I have these quick connects here, and I also have these two elbows that are going to go right at the base or the outlet and return inlet of the glycol. The reason I opted for that is I didn't want the main line to have a hard 90 right at the outlet. We'll see how it goes because possibly this could cause some condensation, but we'll see if that's a problem. And of course I have Teflon tape. So let's go into a bit more detail of what I have here before we get started. Here's all the parts for my setup. I have two elbows. I have two T's, I have one flow regulator, I have 11 tri-clamps, I have 4 tri-clamp to 3/8 inch NPT plugs. Those are what we will be plugging in these plastic quick connects, so these are optional. And also plugging, this goes directly into the glycol chiller, which is a 3/8 inch plug. And then on top of that, have the solenoid valve from Brewtools, which they now have the connection kit. So this will plug into an Inkbird. All right, first things first is using the Teflon tape on these threads. And just make sure that you wrap it in the direction that you will be tightening your fitting on, if that makes sense. Screw them on. And use this handy little tool, which doesn't fit. Cool. It's so close. Now, time to attach the elbows. Again, I'm doing this optional because you can see there's a wall right here, and I don't really want there to be a hard 90-degree angle right out the outlet and inlet. So that way, this is why I'm using an elbow, 90-degree elbow, 34mm tri-clamp, in order to make that a bit less harsh and not restrict any flow. So let's clamp those on. Next, it's time to thread up all these NPT threads, also using the Teflon tape, just to be safe. So this will be fun. Now to attach these beautiful babies. So I will attach it to the inlet and outlet of the glycol chiller, and also the inlet and the outlet of the fermenter. After that, the next step, we will install the solenoid valve, and you can see has the direction of the flow. And once we do that, and we have all of the hard pieces, oh Jesus Christ, have all of the hard pieces installed, we will finish with running the lines. I figured running the lines at the end is easiest, so you know the length, because all the hard parts, you know, can't really extend or not. So let's put them on. Now we install the lines. All right, so I have measured out the first line for this tea, and then I'm going to measure out all the other ones. Look at this little baby line, it's so cute. Oh, don't you just love it? But I found actually to get, you see that doesn't quite fit. Yeah. So, pro tip, hot water makes rubber malleable. Don't pour this on your face. Don't do it. Just don't, okay? And now I'm going to measure and cut all the lines, and you'll see how I do it at the end. It's, I think, easier if you see it that way, or maybe not, and you're gonna be confused, and you can click away now. So let's measure. This one's a bit easier.
Yes, it has the half nip and the full nip.
Exactly. This is classic half nip, full nip situation. So now you can see that the amount of insulating line you get depends on your setup and how far away it is. So I have these elbows. This is the pump outlet, and this is going in a circular loop, and it branches off with these T's here, which go to the fermenter, and the amount of flow that goes into the fermenter is controlled by an on and off solenoid valve here, which is controlled by Inkbird. And then also back here is also a valve that controls the flow in the entire circulation loop and can cause more flow to go into your fermenter. So now we'll fill it up with some water and test it. Dumping in 19 liters of water because I am going to dilute it with 8 liters of propylene glycol. And now I'm just testing for leaks with water only. All right, we turn it on and see if we have water flow. It's not leaking, I don't think. Now that we tested to see if it's leaking water, confirm that it's not, and now we add the propylene glycol. And I'm adding, for the 27 liter tank, I'm adding 8 liters. It'll be different depending on the size of your tank, but approximately 30% by volume for the temperatures that we're going to use here. Try not to splash it this time, we learned. Now for the best part, tearing off the sticker. Oh God. Wow. This is as exciting as it gets, I'm sorry. Maybe some B-roll. All right, so I've just brewed a seltzer, a hard seltzer. So if you're more interested in like what I did to brew that, just let me know and follow along, subscribe or whatever. But I'm going to actually test out the system right now because I have put it in here and it is slightly warmer than I want. So using an Inkbird, I want it to be 22 and it's 24. So let's turn on the cooling and see if it works. Switch to on. My bath temperature is set to -4. When I plug the port, that goes from the solenoid to the cooling. Should hear a click. Hear it flowing. Looks like we're cooling. All right, so the fermentation went well. It's been about 2 weeks and I'm making a hard seltzer, and now what I'm going to do is I am going to cold crash. So what I've done already is I have lowered the bath temperature down to -4, and you can see it's frosty. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my last additions into the hard seltzer and we'll cold crash. I've made here a slurry of fruit juice, fruit syrup, and citric acid, and all of them have been pasteurized. And I also put them with some water because it helps dissolve the citric acid, so that way it spreads in the fermenter easier. So I'm gonna add those right now via the hot drop kit because I'm under pressure, as you can see. And we are going to then cold crash. So let's do it. Ideally, I would do an oxygen transfer, but it's a hard seltzer, so I'm not as worried. And I also subsequently forgot to put on this. Rookie mistake. So I'm gonna release the pressure a bit. Carbonation should still stay a bit in it, so I didn't lose all of it, but not ideal. And yeah, let's do that. Now we set the temperature to our desired temperature. I'm going to set a temperature of 1 degree Celsius or some fucking number in Fahrenheit, I don't know. So temperature set. Boom, click. Heard the relay go on and we are cooling. So let's see how fast it cools. It's it doesn't matter what time it is, does it? Because I'll just say how long it cools later. It doesn't mean anything to you what time it is. So it's only been maybe 5 or 10 minutes and you can already see the heat exchange in action where the return line of glycol, which is hitting the warmer beer, is coming in, and those pipes were frozen before I was using the cooling line because it's recirculating within. But then now you can see melting like crazy. So heat transfer is happening. Exciting. As you can see here, this seltzer took about 7 hours to reach cold crash temperatures. And I also did this during the summer where the ambient temperature was a bit higher, around 23 degrees. So I've had the MiniChill for about a few months now and I've done a few batches, and I thought no better test than trying it on a Kvike. So my Kvike is at 35 degrees. The beer has been sitting around for about 2 weeks now, and we are ready to cold crash. So as you can see here, this beer actually cold crashed a bit faster, but also it should be noted that the volume was less and the ambient temperature was also lower, which will help, of course, cool the beer. So I'm gonna wrap this video up with a few tips and tricks I've learned along the way of having the MiniChill. So number one I've learned is that you can actually have fluctuations in temperature when you're trying to cool or stay at your set point. And I think this is due to the fact that your glycol temperature can be radically different than your beer temperature. So therefore what you can do is actually dial in your glycol temperature in order to be a bit closer to your beer temperature, which I hope reduces the fluctuations and also might save you a bit of energy efficiency. Another thing that I learned the hard way, and maybe you saw it earlier in the video, is that actually make sure to tighten these fittings all the way. Because if you don't, they slightly leak. Another thing that I've learned is that you can actually have ice condensation build up with inside your glycol chiller. If you look here. And what this does is it actually causes your glycol level to rise, and then if you don't take care of this, it leaks all over your floor. So if you look in the back of the chiller, you can see this is the actual overfill. And what I recommend doing is making sure that that overfill goes into some sort of bucket. Right now I'm actually just using this long hose, but I'll shorten it, and it's going into this nice tray here. So make sure you take care of that when you start cooling, or else you'll learn that you have glycol all over the floor. And finally, one thing to know, everywhere that you have exposed metal and you have higher humidity like we do here in Norway, you will end up getting, as you've seen in this video, you will see that you have ice building up on those fittings. And like here, and here, and here. And ice tends to melt and drip. So be mindful of where you have those fittings and maybe make sure that you have something to collect the water from condensation under it. I think that does it for this video. So if you'd actually like to see the recipe of the stout that you just saw cooled, make sure to click this right here. Just click it. Otherwise,
I'll see you around.
All right. Now that we tested if it's water leaking, yep, that's not what you say. Water leaking.